Hello, hello, and welcome back to International Fathers. I'm your host and your creator, Nelson Moody Sr. As you know, I like to recap from my last show, which was last week. We had Kevin McKinney on here as the father that we were talking about, honoring and saluting, along with Mac Four, his four sons who singers, they're R&B singers. Look Out Temptations, they sing like the Jacksons, the Delphonics, the Four Tops, Drew Hill, and Troop. They're definitely on their way. Another thing I'd like to ask you is if you had a chance to visit or call your child or children, there's nothing or nobody hindering you or stopping you. Did you take the opportunity to do so? If not, I need to know and I want to know why. Your children need you. Your children need you as fathers. My next guest, if we're going to talk about him, he's an Atlanta native. He's the author of a life-changing book on relationships entitled The Eve Effect. This book was written to help women understand the mind of men and how we make better decisions in the area of love, commitment, and relationships. He's not only an author, but also a relationship mentor, empowerment speaker, where he guides individuals to maximize their God-given talents, gifts, and skills to better their faith, their family, finances, fitness, and their future. The 5 F's: faith, family, finances, fitness, and your future. He is also an amazing father of 3 handsome sons and the grandfather of little Miss Amora. Not only that, he is a fearless leader, magnificent mentor, and an awesome pastor of Church 180 located in Locust Grove, Georgia. He is well known in the areas of leadership and ministering to youth. He serves as a member of the Georgia Baptist Mission Board through the Statewide Association of Baptist Assemblies. He is a member of the Full Gospel Baptist Church Fellowship. In addition, he is a national registered member of Mentors of America to help lead and guide young men to unlimited levels of success. Unlimited levels of success. He is the vice chairman of the City Hood Project, Imagine Greenhaven for unincorporated South DeKalb County here in Georgia. He is a committed community activist and the founder of a mentoring program called Raising Kings. He has served as vice president of the Remnant Fellowship of Churches. He was also a co-host of a weekly radio broadcast, Inspirational Chat on Love 860 AM. He has appeared on Love and Relationships with host Joyce Little of WACK 1380 AM, The Jay and Shay Show on WCDJ 99.1 FM, The Game Changers with Lisa Faulkner of WAEC Love 860 AM, KISS 104.1 FM with Tawanda Black, and actively participates in relationships and panelists throughout the country. I'm going to introduce to some and present to others, Mr. Anthony Wilson. Welcome, sir. Glad to have you today.
It is indeed a pleasure to be here with you, Nelson, and I've been looking forward to this day to come and share with you and your audience on your show. And it's just, an honor and privilege that anyone wants to recognize you, want to talk with you about anything that you're doing, because for me, I don't do it for the prestige and the prominence. Okay. I just serve, and I let my service, kind of speak for itself. And so, again, man, I'm honored, and thank you for having me with you today.
Thank you for coming.
All right.
Thank you for coming. I got attracted to you when we were at the BMAA Awards. For you all that don't know out there, TV land, it was Black Men Acknowledged Awards, Achievement Awards, hosted and created by Tracy Smalls. And of all the men who were awarded, I was listening to each one of what you guys were being awarded for. Basically, I was fishing to see who I can get as a potential guest.
Okay. I understand.
Some of the guys were resourceful and laid back, and some were open. You were one who were open when I introduced myself to you and told you what I was and what I was all about. You was welcome and said, okay, let's make this happen. And I also had a guest last week. He was there. I don't know if you recall the boys that were singing. I think you may have got there. Okay.
Yes.
They were here last week.
Okay.
They from Baltimore. Baltimore, call in. The calling number is 470-251-4343.
Okay.
But I said I had to reach out to him and see if he would be a guest on my show, and here you are. So read some of your bio. You had magnificent in there. You had awesome in there. You had leader in there. Let's talk about what makes you an awesome dad.
Well, one of the things I feel as it relates to being an awesome dad, again, I feel like it's a dad who is teachable, who's ever so learning, who's always open to new things. And being that I really never had a blueprint to go by in my immediate life, there were models that were extensions of my family. That I had an uncle, man, who I really got a chance to see what fatherhood is about, but to have that consistent model before me, didn't have it. And so what I had to do is kind of learn on the job, if you will, and so I'm learning that to be an awesome dad is to always stay connected, be in tune with your kids. And I want to go back to that being teachable, not too rigid that you can't learn. And so, of course, as this generation is changing, evolving, so I'm trying to stay in the know. And at the end of the day, my sons have said it, so I got to go with what they say.
Right.
And one of those things I've always tried to pride myself with them is to give them a good example to follow. I'm not perfect, but give them the best example that I can give to them so they could follow.
Well, we seem like we chew a lot of the same dirt here. I bring my children together often. I myself, single dad like you, through unfortunate divorce. My girls are 16, my son is 15, and I echo some of what you said to them. I asked them why they love me, and the answer that they can't give me is because I'm your dad. They gave that years ago. So over the course of the years, they built up their answerings, and it's become an epidemic now. Because I don't want you to love me because I'm your dad. I want you to give reasons so that I could see and know, like you just said, if I'm doing a good job, if I'm doing a job that you expect me to do, am I doing what I should be doing or what I could be doing without neglecting you? And they know my story, which is similar to yours. I didn't have a dad. As I grew up, I watched 13 men, from uncles to older cousins to military. And I took from them guys. And they have 13 men inside of me. So I'm constantly making sure that I remain who they say I am. Because like they need me, I need them. Steve Harvey was talking one day. Steve Harvey, if you're out there looking and listening, call in 470-251-4343. On Twitter, he liked 2 of my posts about a week ago. And he'll harbor like one of my posts 3 days ago. But he said to his children, he was on show, I think it was his birthday, and all the children came up. His biological children, children that he married with his wife now.
I think I saw that broadcast, yeah.
And one thing that he said with tears in his eyes, he said that you need me and I need you. And the tears started coming down. But then when one of the boys said that they thank God and are happy or pleased to carry your last name. I was done then, but I got to tell my children, I need you guys. You need me, like you going back to what you said at that teachable moment, because at the end of the day, I want to make sure that I've done right. I've often said this to people who know me from 1,000 years ago, that when I'm laid to rest and I see God's face, all I want to hear is job well done. On my obituary, all you need is to put is Nelson Amoudi Sr. did right by his children. You got to put down nothing else. Mm-hmm. And those who know me will be able to say, you know what? He did right by them children.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? But you, I couldn't disagree with what you're saying.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a, it's an honor to be a father, because a lot of people, they don't make the connection of being in that role. You are automatically a leader. The moment you find out, you know, you're going to be a father, mm-hmm. you're a leader. Mm-hmm. You know, and there's no real training manual that comes with it. However, you start with trying to instill in your children the best of your ability, what you would have wanted to happen in your life. And so it's ironic that I was sharing with you earlier about how my relationship with my dad is. We were not really close in my younger years. Mm-hmm. And again, I can attribute some of that to that was just adult stuff, and we were kind of separated per se, mm-hmm. From my dad. However, as I've gotten older and being able again to strengthen my knowledge and my wisdom and being teachable, mm-hmm. I had to learn that my father has his own story. So I have my mother's version, but I have to give him the opportunity to give his version. I always share this with children. There's always two sides of the story. Yeah. It's always two sides of the story. And so with that being said, you know, I want my boys, just like you, to mm-hmm. say, you know what, I had a great dad, and he exposed me to a lot of things to make my life better. Mm-hmm. And I want them to be proud to carry the Wilson name. And I think Nelson, man, I think the most rewarding phrase or statement or slogan, or however you want to call it, that anybody could want to hear is, I'm proud to be your child.
Yeah.
I'm proud to be your child. And I think, man, mm-hmm. what would you do? What would you not do for a child mm-hmm. who has that heart and mindset mm-hmm. towards you? And so I'm working on that every single day with my boys. Being that, you know, I'm a divorced single father, mm-hmm. so there's a lot of dynamics within that, because my boys grew up with their mother in the house for for a certain length of time, and then all of a sudden they changed. Mm-hmm. I say the environment changed. Right. And what I tried to do is keep their life as normal as possible. Mm-hmm. And you know, at some point we had to deal with the hard questions. Where, Dad, why did you and Mama get a divorce? Okay. Mm-hmm. And so at that time, I knew that they couldn't really handle the truth for what it was. But what I did tell them was, us getting a divorce had nothing to do with them. You. Yep. Had nothing to do with you all. Okay. And your mother is always going to be here for you, and I'm always going to be here for you. You know, mm-hmm. I was very adamant about my boys being with me after the divorce, mm-hmm. For the simple reason I felt like at the time that those formidable years of boyhood, teenage, manhood I really need to have my hand directly upon them to make that happen. It was no slight to the mother, and after some prayerful consideration, she allowed it to happen. Okay. And I enjoy it. Is it easy? No. But I will say this, Nelson. I say this to men, to fathers. Man, it is my. First of all, let me say this. I salute all single mothers who have had to do it on their own, and so I understand a lot of what they've gone through. But at the same time, I've decided to accept the challenge, even in spite of the difficulties. And man, it ain't easy. It is not easy.
No.
And especially in these formative years of transitioning from adolescent into teenage years. Oh man, it is interesting. And so, and one of the things I always share with my boys is, now listen now, whatever you do to me, your kids are gonna do it to you.
Yep. And
so I try to instill some of those principles in them. And man, I enjoy my boys. We have a good time. And I am intentionally trying to do more things pertaining to them.
Okay.
Because man, the time it'll get by. It'll get by.
It don't wait for you.
I mean, my son, man, he's growing a mustache, and so, I'm gonna have to show him how to shave real soon. But I love the opportunity that I get to be the molder, if you will, of two lives, because my oldest son passed last year in a tragic car accident, head-on collision, and so man, I was proud of him. I'm proud of him. He accomplished a lot.
Okay.
He drew about 2,000 people into a church, all ages and stages of life.
So he touched lives.
And so I actually did his eulogy, and what I've learned from his legacy is that it's not so much how long you live, it's all about what you do while you're here. And one of the things I heard during one of the prayer visuals that they had for my son, I heard these young people, one after the other, how my son wanted to help them be better. He instilled in them a drive. He made them and motivated them to do more. Ironically, that's the business I'm in now.
We say that came from apple don't fall too far from the tree.
Yeah, and so although he may have lived in another household, that spirit, that seed was implanted in him, and man, it's just a joy. Continue to pray for me and my family as we still deal with this. We still deal with it, but we have a wonderful grandbaby that's living out his legacy. She comes into any room and she commands it. So she is a leader. I can tell she's going to be a leader, and so. But man, it's just a golden opportunity to talk about fatherhood, manhood as a whole, because I do believe that the solution to the majority of the ills in our community is not another law, is not a black president, is not a black governor. The solution is not a black mayor, but I believe it is the black man, and more particularly the black fathers. Yep.
Wonderfully put. Fathers, some don't know the impact and the influence they have on their child or children's lives. If you're that father out there and you're not connected with your child or children, I need you to stop what you're doing. If you have the access, call them up. As I said before, don't start a relationship from the past with your child or children. Pick up right now.
Yeah.
Pick up right now. If he or she asks about that, then you can talk about it, depending on the maturity level of the child or children. Pick them up right now. They need you. They crying for you. They begging for your attention. They want your validation. Like you said too, my son is 15. He's about maybe 3 inches taller than me. Grew his little beard. I still kiss him. I hug him too. Son, I love you. In our prayers at night, God, thank you for allowing me to be a part of their lives. One year they asked me why. I said because I could have walked out of your life.
Mm-hmm.
I could have did this. A divorce could take you in certain areas. I could have been started drugging, start doing this, doing that. But through God's grace and mercy, I didn't. So that's why I thank God daily for allowing me to be a part of your life.
Mm-hmm.
You mentioned a lot of stuff in there, reference to your father. I mean, you say 2 sides to a story. I myself was a product of that. My dad, like I told you, died 2 days before I was supposed to be meeting him. So I only know one side of the story. I was reading about Kirk Franklin 3 days ago, how he got a phone call from an anonymous person that told him his father had 3 to 6 months to live. And if you know his story, his parents gave him up for adoption. And for years he carried that hatred. And now all of a sudden this father needs to want him. He forgave his father. He said because it tore him up for years of you doing that. And I'm hearing about you with your dad, now you're developing a relationship. I mentioned on my show about maybe 3 or 4 shows back to where as though I had to forgive my mother for not telling me back then. Because all I have is your side of the story.
Right.
I don't have his side of the story.
Right.
But I had to forgive you. And it wasn't a pastor or a preacher that ultimately had me to do that. It was Medea.
Okay.
One of the shows where Medea was talking to, I believe it was Cicely Tyson, where as though he said that if you don't forgive somebody, then they have all the power.
Right. Right.
But once you do it, you pray about it, and you release it, then the forgiveness, and you're sincere about it, the doors are open.
Yeah.
To y'all that listening out here, I'm not trying to turn this into no church service, but if it fall on your ears like that, Godspeed.
Yeah.
Again, the call number is 470-251-4343.
Yeah, I think the whole forgiveness piece with fathers has to come into play. Because Nelson, I do love relationships, and I understand the dynamic of how much women play a role in the influence and impact of men.
Mm-hmm.
So what I mean by that is a lot of relationships. So when a man and a woman get together, in most instances, whatever they desired in a mate, the person that they're with, a lot of times have never had that kind of person modeled before them.
Okay.
And that can spill over into the areas of fatherhood, parenting, just being affectionate. And so a lot of times, and I'm not trying to blame women, but a lot of times men feel guilty, okay, a lot of times, and have been come down upon a lot of times, in that when the things don't work out in relationships, he automatically assumes, okay, then I can't have that good relationship with my children anymore. And I think men, and I want to encourage men to fight through that, because even if you have walked away and your kids are still alive, I'm almost sure and almost certain in many aspects that if you seek their forgiveness from the children, they'll give it to you. Because a lot of times, now again, it will depend on what style, how much of the story has been ingrained in them about their father. But in most cases, that most children are forgiven, even as adults. Look at the story you said of Kirk Franklin. Look at you as in your life. I will never forget one of my friends. He's retired. Well, he retired from a church, St. Paul's Missionary Baptist Church in Brooklyn, New York. Dr. Johnny Ray Youngblood. I will never forget him saying that in him trying to build a men's ministry in his church, one of the first things that was on his list to do is to own up to a child that he had outside of his marriage, to own up to it. And he began to develop and build that relationship with his son, his estranged son. And then he went on to encourage the men of his church to do what he did. And ironically, at first, there was a lot of pushback from the women, because now the pastor is encouraging these men to now include these children into their lives. And those women understood, well, if I'm going to accept my man or my husband, then I'm going to have to accept this outside child, this child. Again, initially, go back to the woman. And don't get me, I love women and I love what they stand for, but I want them to understand how important they are in the mediation of those relationships. And at the end of the day, it's all about the child.
Yeah.
It's all about the child. Keep the main thing. And I think that would help with a lot of this anger and bitterness and rage that a lot of our young people are going through these days, because the father's not there. And so, I mean, think about it. Not only we have systems in place to further lengthen the relationship between fathers and their children. There's a system in place to make that happen in our community. But what we don't need is the furthering of that lengthening process with our own women, not being the mediators in those situations. And so you don't have to like him, love him, and things but be the mediator in reconciling those children with those fathers. And I want to say to every father who will listen to me, now is the time. Now is the time for you to reconcile. Those kids need you. I'm gonna go on a limb. I can't say I know how you feel, because I've always been intentional about being in my kids' lives. But what I can say is working with kids, working with children, working with being a mentor, I understand the importance of the role of the father in a child's life. So, with that being said, it's again, I have to go back to the word intentionality. It's about being intentional. And so I'm doing some things in my kids' lives, my boys' lives, to be intentional. And one of the things that I'm really proud of them with their niece, my granddaughter, their niece, man, they are very protective of her, And I say, now listen, what you do in school and what you do in the community is going to affect her.
Right.
Because if you do something wrong,
right,
and you come up and you end up being missing out of her life because you letting her down,
and she's gonna watch all of that.
Right, and so it's resonating in their ears, and hopefully, I know my boys are going to be successful. I'm gonna make sure of it, and through prayer, through God's guidance, I'm gonna do all I can to be the best example I can before them.
That's what I say. If you're that father and you just heard these encouraging words, like I've always say, you'll hear me say it a million more times. Those children need you. They want you. They shouldn't have to beg for your attention. But if you're there, it looks like we have a caller here. I'm not sure. You there? Hello, caller.
Hello, Mr. Moody. How are you today?
How are you? We got about 10 minutes, but about 2 minutes of talking.
Okay. Well, I'll make it brief. I just know that regarding what you were saying earlier, like if it falls on your ears, then God speaks. So, I wanted to set it out and just listen and watching them and just observe. So anyway, when you were I'm sorry, your guest. I'm sorry I didn't get his name because I chimed in too late.
Anthony Wilson.
Okay. Oh, but anyway, the guest, when he just mentioned, the reason for a lot of people with children that are dealing with anger, frustration, a lot of the things that they deal with, they go through whatever because of the father's absence or whatever. That was my time. That was my cue. And that's like, oh, my God, are you, So anyway, that was my reason because my dad wasn't around. And I wanted to mention, yes, I have a lot of that in my book, which is released today, Reality Speaks. But I want to say I'm enjoying the show, and you already know that. So I'm setting it out, and if I listen, I just want to say that was my cue to give a call in. Excuse me for getting emotional. But that was my cue to give a call in because he is absolutely correct. Because when we don't have our fathers in our lives, a lot of times things do go wrong, and that is when we get angry, we take our bitterness out in the wrong way, you know what I mean? So, yes, a lot of people are led wrong. But I just want to thank you, mister, for even throwing it out there because you're absolutely right. And God bless you, too.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Mom. I'll start to you next week.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right.
Yeah. So when she was talking, so for me, man, I try to do a lot of things kind of retrospective, because you don't want to, again, I think I said earlier, I don't want to live with regret of, not doing certain things while I can. But I remember I played sports.
Mm-hmm.
And I had got to the point where I was angry with my dad as to why I didn't go further in sports. And this was why, because my mother couldn't get me to all these places.
Mm-hmm.
I had to be here, be there. She was raising 3 kids on her own. However, I'll never forget looking at a lot of my teammates. They're there with their mother and their father.
Mm.
And the majority of them, they furthered their sports career. They went on to play college. But I just, I never told nobody this, so I'm telling you now. So I dealt with that anger for a minute, However, I had a praying mother. I had a God-fearing mother. Through all of that, man, I've never been to jail, never been arrested. I've been in the back of a cop's car one time, just because he wanted to just confirm my identity.
Okay.
Because I was with some other of my peers, and we looked suspicious. And I think we did. I will admit we did look suspicious. However, that's the only time I've had an encounter with law enforcement. I set out to say this. My mother played an important role in me getting over that anger that I had, because I really wanted to play sports. I was good,
Okay.
but my desire to take it further just wasn't there, because I never had that male, my father, just pushing me, because in many regards, if not him, somebody, I didn't have that someone to push me to the next level. But ultimately, Nelson, I understood now what I didn't know then, is that it really wasn't God's plan for my life. God's plan for my life was to be a leader, to impact lives differently than going through sports.
Okay.
And and so when I was around, I guess 20, and found out I was going to be a father,
Gotcha.
all of that anger and stuff went out the window, because now I said, well, now I got to instill some good principles in my son. And man, I was proud to be a father, so I named him after me.
That's right. We got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to spill out what I need to spill out. Then I'm gonna let you talk more about you, what I talked about earlier as far as your credentials. You can just throw it out there.
Okay.
Again, if you know a father out there and you want him to be a guest on International Fathers here in Atlanta, send me a 350-word essay on why he should be on my show, along with a short bio and your contact information to NelsonMoodysr@gmail.com. That's NELSONLMOODYSR@gmail.com. Fathers, 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 call those children, and children, call those fathers. Fathers, 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 hug those children, and children, hug those fathers. We're going to let Mr. Anthony Wilson take us out, give him some information.
All right, I am on all social media platforms. You can look me up as Pastor Anthony Wilson or author Anthony Wilson or I am A.L. Wilson. You can find me at IamALWilson.com, the relationship mentor. If you need one of my books on relationship, The Eve Effect, you can go to IamALWilson.com and you can order a book there. I'm also working on my second book for men called The Adam Effect, and we're looking to get that released in your hands by February, and pre-sales will probably start around December. I'm available for speaking engagements as it relates to relationships, marriages, men. I host a men's group called Man Cave every second Monday night at the Pinstripes Bowling Alley in Stockbridge, Georgia. I'm working on also a collaboration with Fathers Incorporated, and we're trying to build out that particular platform that we'll be hosting in the Henry County area in barbershops. And if you want to hear me preach every single Sunday, you can find me at Church 180. We're located at 67 Pine Grove Road in Locust Grove, Georgia. Service starts at 9:30 a.m. and we always dress casual. What else? And you can always find me on Facebook. I do a lot of Facebook Lives, and I try to do all I can to help motivate all people in all walks of life. And if you have any sons age 7 to 24, you can also get in touch with us at 404-396-7363 so we can get them into our Raising Kings mentoring program. And so got a lot going on, and there's many ways you can contact me, and so thank you for having me here.
Thank you. Fathers, until next time.